Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outraised Voices. If you're coming back to join us, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And if you are new here, hello, welcome, and thank you, and hope I see you again. So I'll tell you a little bit about Outraised Voices, because Outraised Voices, our guest CEOs share their journeys about being outraised outside of their family of origin, country of origin, and beyond. And today, our CEO is Po Lin, and she is going to share her before and after story as an adoptee from Hong Kong, and how mindset helped her to come unstuck, which is something I know a little bit about because I had to do my own adjusting, and still from time to time, because of going through my own journey through foster care. So sometimes, as you know, our stories can hold us back and keep us playing small. What if we thought about the journey as our message in the world? And how can you learn to appreciate where you've come from and where those challenging moments have empowered you? So what I learned is that wishing things were different is not going to create change. I had to do the work and figure out my stuff in order to live my best life and give my future self a chance. So let's join Po Lin and find out where her story has led her to do the work in order to live her best life. Welcome, Po.
Hi, Sharon. How are you today? Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, as I say, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes. Where are you now?
Life is pretty good. I have two businesses, actually. I look after dogs in people's homes. I always feel that when dog owners go away, their dog gets stressed out. So I always feel it's better for the dog for me to go to their place. And I have my own business where it is turning into mindset and energy work. I find that really valuable to be working in this space of people with the mindset, because lots of people have traumas that they have had to deal with, and a big part of working through traumas is knowing where you are, where did you start, knowing where your thoughts are, knowing how you feel and how you think. I feel that journey has led me to be able to be from just having the life that I love, because I get to be and do who I want to be and be with, and as opposed to having life work as it happens. I'm finding that life works for me and I get to create it.
Now, looking back at the journey, we haven't got to your journey yet. What is I guess, what are you most proud of where you are now? What are you most proud of through the journey, through the growth, your personal growth and accomplishments?
Yeah, that I'm realizing that I am the creator, that I can be present, I can be visible.
Yes.
And that I have things that I know can help people when I share what I have to share.
When did you start to sort of explore your greatness, to get into your own mindset?
I was doing quite well. I used to work in the hospital, and I used to help people get surgery ready, which means in the hospital, through all the surgeries that were happening, whether it was a big surgery, heart surgery, or a little surgery like cataract eye surgery, I would make sure that all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed for their surgery, that they were prepared. In 2018, I found myself in a horrendous accident. I was actually run over by a van, and I was just very fortunate to have survived that accident. And I had to learn to walk again and just relearn how to do all my daily activities. I had gone through the regular system of physio and taking medications and all those things, which is very important. But I also found when all of that had settled that I was still having little things that weren't right with my injuries, which led me to look for alternate ways to get better.
Are you now going into the mindset of resilience and so on?
Yeah. So what happened was I found that as I was doing that, like there was days and I would be like I wasn't able to walk, and I would think things like, oh my goodness, like why am I still here? Like I'm worse off than I was before. And I literally thought, why am I even here? Like why bother? And I couldn't see any hope. And it was like, I don't really know how to explain it, but it was like this inside kept saying, just keep going. Just keep going. You're gonna be okay. You can do this. And I remember asking when I went for physio, my physiotherapist, I said, am I ever going to walk again? And he goes, yeah, you'll be fine. Just trust that. So with him telling me that and that inner voice of just, I can do this and I don't have to be that person that's immobile. That was the start of, wow, I can play a part in this. And it came to a place I actually now call that my birth date, because I feel like that was the beginning of my new life.
You had a rebirth.
I did.
A soul
I call that
rebirth.
100%, because I feel like in that moment when I decided that, when my physio was saying you can do this and that voice inside was saying keep going, it was okay. Well, let's just look at what I can do. And I could like move my arms, and I could move my body around, and I could still eat, and I could still see, and I could. So that was the beginning of gratitude. And I think when a person can understand even the most normal things that we possibly could take for granted, when you start saying, wow, I have breath and I can speak. There's a lot of things that are working. I found myself working on that, and that gave me the strength to just piece by piece know that I wasn't stuck in that place of on the floor and not able to move.
Wow. So on that note, now you've come so far on the journey. Let's go back to how, because this whole, your voice, the rebirth, the resilience, where does Po Lin start this journey?
I was born in 1960, so I'm going to be 65 in April, and I was in Hong Kong, and I was actually in an orphanage from birth, and I was actually in 3 orphanages, and back in 1963, I think it was, there was a shortage of water in Hong Kong. And so the government was actually putting out a plea for people to adopt babies because the water shortage was so huge.
Extreme.
And
oh my God.
In that time frame, I was in an orphanage, and I had become a request to be adopted into Canada. And one of the things that they thought would be a good idea would be for me to be in a foster home to experience family life, because I'd been up to that point in an orphanage. So I was in the, the foster home for, I actually don't know how long, but it was less than a year. And it was actually quite exciting when the adoption came through, because apparently my parents got an email saying, "Oh, we need you to send us X amount of dollars or else your daughter might not be on this plane." So
Wow.
they had to scramble to get money together so that I could fly on this plane. And there was 10 of us, so 10 babies from Hong Kong, flying with 4 social workers from Hong Kong to Vancouver, BC. And it was kind of a big headline news deal, because it was one of the first times that Hong Kong had actually opened it up to international. Mm-hmm. So when I arrived in Vancouver airport, there was all these reporters and cameras, and I don't remember that, but there are actual pictures and clippings of that event. So that was how my life began. And so then, of course,
you found parents that really wanted you. That's the first thing. You found parents that really wanted you. You're coming from, and you're still a baby. How old are you? 3 years old?
I just say it. So when they knew about me, I was 2. It took them a year to get me, so I came when I was 3.
Yeah.
And so they already had children, so that was kind of different as well.
Foster children, you mean?
Their own children.
They're biological.
They already had 3 biological children, so that in itself was a bit unique as well. So
unique in what way? That somebody who had biological children would then look at adopting another child? Mm-hmm.
Yes, because like I said, back then, adopting internationally was quite different, quite not very common.
Right. So we talked a little bit about this because you were, I guess, transracially adopted as well. Your home, you were not put in the same race home, correct?
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So let's talk.
That brought up a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
It's enough to be adopted in your own culture, but you know that sesame seed story that goes, some of these things don't belong with the other.
Some of these things are not like the other. Yeah, I remember that.
I was one of those ones that was not like the other. It was very clear that I had dark hair and there was blonde in the family and my skin was a bit
different.
darker.
Yes. So how does that when you realize, well, you don't realize it maybe as much when you're 3 years old. So when do you actually start to sense that one of these things is not like the other? Because when do you actually feel that, or that you could remember you're sensing, oh, okay. Are you calling mother now mom, and sister and brother and all?
Yes.
Yeah. So until when? School? And then you start to see the difference, or start to see other people's eyes, through other people's eyes.
Sorry, it's very interesting because my parents were very excited, of course, to have me, and they wanted me to keep as much of my Chinese culture as possible. So,
cool.
Funny story, they sent me to Chinese school to learn and maintain my Chinese.
Wow.
And so my mom went, but I would have nothing to do with it. She learned more Chinese than I did. And when I look back in some of the research that I have done since, that's actually very common for intercultural children to almost dismiss their culture, because the main thing is they don't fit in looks, so they want to fit in and be, in my case, Canadian. They want to be that, they want to fit into that family. So speaking Chinese wasn't, in my mind as a little girl, a way to fit in. So I dismissed it.
Is it also the mother country that gave you up? Is there a sign the mother country gave you up? So is there something that comes in your head? Well, I've got a family now. You didn't want me, but
And I think for me it was definitely more about it would be
fitting
too
in.
painful sort of to re-go back there. It was very painful. I actually didn't entertain that thought to go back to Hong Kong until 2015. So how old would I have been back? I think I was in my 40s then that I didn't go back. And, that was a big thing because I thought, what would happen if I go back? And at the time that I went, there was this show called, what's the show called? It's about these people and they help you find, Lost Family. It was at that time it was called Lost Family. So they're adoptees themselves that had found their birth parents. And so they were doing the show to help others find their birth parents. So some of the things on my mind was, well, I was given up for adoption for a reason, and I didn't necessarily want to know the reason. But when I went back to Hong Kong, it was actually very healing to go back to see that my country, it wasn't really my country. I didn't have that association, which I found very interesting. And I was able to just see it that was my birthplace, but my home is actually Canada, which I found very interesting to have that as a resolve.
Now, did you find family in Hong Kong when you went back? Were you able to find any family members? No. No records.
I didn't, but I went, I think part of the healing of that was because I actually did go back to my birthplace, which was really interesting. And I also went to one of the orphanages that I was in. And that was very, very healing because it showed me, how they operated, how they try their best to, bring the children up as if they're their own. Like that to me was a family situation, environment. And, that was very healing.
And did you see other young children there in these orphanages? Were you able to relate to them?
Yeah. And that was really fun because it was like, this is what it would have been like if I was like one little boy came up to me and I thought it was really sweet because it was almost like when the child came up to me, it was like, that's me coming up to, a visitor. And it was just very healing to see it from the other side rather than, up until then. And see, that's the thing that I've learned through mindset is when you're very young, between 0 and 7, things that happen to you, you see from that viewpoint. And so you make up something to keep you safe. So my story would have been, I'm not wanted or because I was adopted. But when I went back there, I saw that I indeed was wanted in there and it was a place of love and, home because they did their best to be a family for you. So to me, that helped me to change because part of mindset is seeing where that place is the story that doesn't serve you. And then you go, well, what is actually true? What does serve you and what is true? And when you are able to do that, then mountains are moved because then you can put that in front of you, that story, and keeps you moving forward that way rather than the other one of, for me it was like, I was abandoned, nobody wanted me, all those things.
Yes.
As an adult, I can go back and say to that little girl, okay, well, that may have happened, but I want you, and I can make things to do that I like, and that's how you get to recreate yourself and mindset of all is good and see that things are working for you rather than against you.
Yes. I was going to ask you about going back, because in transformational healing, we always talk about checking in with that younger self. And so going back to Hong Kong, would you say that was the beginning of your grounding, understanding what you want to do, how you want to step, who you are, and would you say that's the beginning of the mindset shift for you?
Not consciously, no.
Not consciously, okay.
No.
Okay.
But I think the fact that I actually went, yes. Consciously,
Yes.
no, but underneath that is a piece of, oh, okay, well, I can let that story go. And I realize that's why I say that things happen for you, because when I started on my journey of self-reflection and healing and why am I here, everybody always asks. There's always a time in your life that you ask, why am I here? And my defining moment was after the accident. And so I would say that was my defining moment, but I can piece together me going to Hong Kong, how that fit. I can piece together all the different things in my life that have happened as to how that can fit. Right. And again, it's about the story that we tell ourselves. Yes. To maintain, I have a book that I co-authored in, and the chapter that I wrote was about staying in your own lane. It's called Stay in Your Own Lane. And in that book, in that chapter, I talk about you can have many distractions, you can have many things happening in your life, but when you stay in your own lane, when you stay in what you know to be true for yourself, when you stay focused on where you want to be, those are the steps and the tools that you use to keep propelling yourself forward to get to be better, to be the best you that you were created to be.
Yeah, and it takes steps and it takes action. I wanted to ask that question when you were trying to figure why am I here? Yeah. That question, that's just so, Pauline, why are you here?
I would say that my main reason for being here, I believe, is to say to people who have not had a good beginning. People might think, not being in a home but being in an orphanage, that could be a not good beginning. And my voice that I want to say to everybody, especially women, because in our society, women are, one of the things that I had to get over was like, women are to be seen and not heard. And so to learn that, wow, you can attach a whole bunch of things with that. But when you realize that you do have a voice and that you can change that to mean that my message to say that you don't have to stay how you started. Yes. You can stay, you can be and do whoever you want. Just stay focused, stay in your own lane and keep moving. And your purpose unfolds. And that's how it was for me. Each step that I took, I realized that I was moving closer and closer to who I'm to be. And I have, ever since then, I've had, I have another book that I've co-authored. I've started writing my own book. I haven't got a name for it yet, but it's on its way. And I have.
And what's this book about? What's this book about, though?
It's about my journey. It's about what we're talking about today, actually, to be honest.
So it's autobiography or about your life, because it. Go ahead.
It talks a little bit about how I started, and then it moves into more around more mindset, different things that I've done to keep myself on track to be and discover who I am and what I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, we all look forward to that. I want to take you back to the family now, because I've had conversations about being raised, outside of culture and race and all that. What were some of the challenges as you got older, I guess, and you're in school now? What are the challenges, and what were the benefits, or are the benefits?
So my mom, like I said, she already had 3 children, and they were actually quite a bit older than me. So the youngest of the 3 would have been 5.5 years. So by the time I came around to, my teens and things like that, I was pretty much on my own. I was sort of raised as an only child. And I think that because of that, they had more time for me. With the other 3, they were more close in age. So, and they were younger. My parents were younger, so they had different things that they were dealing with at the time. So when I came around, I would say I had more benefits. Like, they were able to take me places. Like, I got to travel with them, and I got to spend one-on-one time with my mom, things like that. So I got to really know her and just feel what a mother's love is. And not to say that if I was there and the other children were around, I wouldn't have felt it. But I think because I was like an only child, that kind of gave me a special touch that I probably would have needed, having come from being in an orphanage where there's a whole bunch of people, to have that individual attention. So I see that as a benefit. And what else?
Did you have any? Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Some of the challenges that you experienced.
Some of the challenges were, I think that because adoption, especially overseas adoption, nobody really talked about it. So, especially in school and things, I used to, like, I remember one time I arrived at we had moved, and so I was in a brand new school, and I missed my first couple of days of when the school opened, when kids start their classes and all that. This would have been grade 5, I think. And the teacher at the time, she saw that I was Asian, and I had to go to the front of the class, which was knee knocking in the first place, like, to talk in front of people. When I said who I was, and I put my name on the board and everything, and she goes, "Oh, you speak such good English." And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? Those were kind of things that I thought was a bit weird for her to say. And I'm not going to lie, I did get a bit of, because I was different, and so when people and things are different, there tends to be fear. And
especially with children, especially when you're with children.
Yeah,
when you're in school, yeah.
So there was a bit of name calling, like what do you call it? I can't even think of it right now. When somebody's different, prejudice. There was a bit of prejudice in that because, they didn't know who I was or what I was. And so I got called like the names that Chinese people get called as a child. And I think my parents, they did try their best, and they, I think they were surprised when I said that, because they felt back in the 60s that, that was sort of not a big thing. But I saw that as a child growing up, and as I grow older, for the most part, it's gone. But sometimes, like, I was carried. I did that. I loved that job. But some of the older people in there, they would be stuck back in the days of prejudice. So I would get a bit of that from them. So I think that those moments, you can call them tower moments, but they were moments for me when I learned to be resilient and just not worry about it. At the time as a child, I know that I was very quiet and I was very retracted. I was very in the background. And I look back on that now though, because I see that as resilience and taking in and seeing how that affected me. All those things I believe had to happen for me to really come back to ground zero, to discover who I really am. Because if you don't strip off who the world says you are, you never find who you are.
Are there aspects of your young life that you've really come to appreciate?
A big part of a lot of what I gleaned from is I knew without a shadow of a doubt what my adopted mother, every time I say my mother, it's my adopted mother that I'm referring to, because I don't know who my mother is.
Right,
but
of course.
I glean on her love for me. Like, I know what love feels like because I felt unconditional love from her all the time, all the time.
Goodness.
And she taught me a lot about what love is, what love feels like. It was her love that gave me the strength to continue moving through the different hard things in my life. And now she's gone. Like, she passed when I was 27. And at the time I was like, oh, how can you leave me? We're just learning to be friends. You know, you've been my mom all this time and now, you know, we can be friends. But I still feel her in my life and I still feel the love that she had for me. So I feel that she's still with me and she's a big charge for my moving forward and seeing life the way that I want it to be. She gave me a glimpse of how life can be, and I see that bringing me from Hong Kong to Canada was huge to give me opportunities that I clearly wouldn't have had if I'd stayed in Hong Kong, especially now. And I'm just very grateful. I think that a lot of that brought me into gratefulness of her and the situation. So not just gratefulness of, you know, being in a family where I never had to worry about, you know, where was my food going to come? Where was my shelter going to come from? I had safety, and I was very grateful for that. And I feel that the gratefulness has carried me through as well.
Gratitude. That's beautiful. Now, I hear you talk a lot about your mom. What about your dad?
So my adopted father he was an interesting fellow. He was very British. So that's where the children are to be seen and not heard came from. And it was very interesting. It wasn't actually until my mom passed that our relationship developed. And it was in those moments that I got to learn from him about just being steady, just being kind of not really, he wasn't necessarily active in my life per se, but he was the stability because he was the provider. He was the one that, you know, gave us the roof over our heads. We always made sure that Christmas was really special. And he always made me feel special. Like one year he made me a huge life-size Barbie doll house. So I had the house with the window and the drapes and the bed, and, you know, I could have tea, have friends over and drink tea in my house. And he always made sure that Easter was fun. Like, he always gave us little hints and clues to find our little Easter eggs. And he was very creative, so he actually wrote books, and he would read books to us before we went to bed and bring the books to life. He wouldn't just read a book, but he would like be the character in the stories. And so he taught me creativity, and he taught me imagination, and those would be the main things. And he was a provider. He would definitely,
Yeah.
I would say that those were the attributes that I learned from him.
Wow. Poe, I'm listening to you. I'm going, you've had a beautiful upbringing. You've had an upbringing that most anyone would want.
Yeah.
Whether they're with family of origin, not with family of origin, whatever. You've had a beautiful, beautiful upbringing, and that's why I see that sense of joy in your face. Even, that's wonderful. Do you practice all those things? Do you still have big Christmases? Do you do all that? Are you with your siblings? Do you hang out together or get together at all?
I wish I could say yes.
Oh, okay.
But the answer to that would be not really. And so the thing that happens is, it's so funny. Like, people change, right? People are constantly changing all the time. Mm-hmm. And there was a place in me where I had to, like, when my dad died, which would be 10 years ago now, mm-hmm. A whole lot changed, because then it was like just the siblings and our parents were gone. And one thing that was very evident when my mom was alive, she was definitely the connector. She would be like, glue. Our communication between everybody and mm-hmm. keeping the glue. She was the glue. So when she left, my dad sort of did it, but not in the same way. It was sort of the same, but not really.
Yeah.
But then when he passed, the glue kind of didn't stick. And that was part of my stepping back and realizing, again, so what is family about? Why do we have family? Why am I here? What's going on? Where's my supports? All these kind of things. And now I'm slowly integrating myself back in. Not the way to make it the way that I thought, the Hallmark card of
that it should
everybody
be,
loves everybody and everybody sits around the fire and sings Kumbaya. Mm-hmm, That's not necessarily
the
real.
Way, and it can be for some people. It can be for some people, but
absolutely. And you can make it that way. You can mm-hmm. make that way. It doesn't have to be mm-hmm. your family, even though I was adopted.
That's right.
That was a choice of there, but now I'm an adult. I get to choose who my family is, and I get to choose when I see my adopted family or when I get to see my friends. So the beautiful thing, the reason I'm sharing all this is, the beautiful thing is my sister and I, she was very, very instrumental in helping me transition from being, like, bringing me into the family. And then she has a husband and 4 kids, and they're all grown up. And she was one that I actually eliminated in my circle of contacts. And I've circled back to bring her in, but on my terms. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful because it's my version of what I think a sister is now. And mm-hmm. that expectation of what I thought my sister should be or could be mm-hmm. or was mm-hmm. or any of that stuff.
Yeah, you let it go.
That wasn't working for me. So now that I've integrated myself back into that slowly, like not yay, we're going to sit around the fire and sing Kumbaya again, but it's about I get to have and create the relationship that I want with her. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't have that. A lot of people would do that ruminating of coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's mm-hmm. about, no, this is how it is, and I'm not going to change it, because if I do, then the peace leaves. I get to choose and be in peace for me and what works for me. And that's part of what authenticity is, being true to you.
Mm-hmm. Being authentic, I think, absolutely. And it can be a challenge, and sometimes you wake up and you just want to not deal. You just like, oh, listen, I'm going to be me, but today I just don't want to. I'll just go along with this situation because I don't. I
Yeah.
just don't want to deal. So that's
Exactly.
life and its steps and its growth. And seeing your sister in her own environment, and she's developing whatever way she, 70, 80, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No.
She's finding
Exactly.
her own voice and her own shield. You know, maybe she let down her shield a little bit for you to see. And that's it. We can only accept people where they are, accept ourselves where we are,
Yes.
and there's always room for growth.
100%.
Always room for growth. So, before we close, I want to ask a couple more questions. Is there a scar for you that you still feel needs addressing? I don't want to say heal, but I would say, okay, I'll say that. Is there a scar for you that still needs healing or addressing or, chipping away at?
I think, though, I believe that we all come in like little packages, right? And, the world teaches you to be a certain way. And when you start realizing that you can't, in order to feel peace, because one of the things that I do is with the energy work and breath work. So one of the things I believe that when you have energy work and breath work, you actually get to be in tune with you. So when you're first coming in tune with yourself, sometimes it can be really uncomfortable because you're used to things moving around fast, chaos. You're used to that because that you get addicted to. When you learn to slow down, you learn to come into peace. That's when the revelations of what we've just talked about, you realize who you are and all those things come, right? So to answer your question, I believe that as we dig deeper into ourselves, realizing what takes away our peace, what we need to have peace, when we learn what our boundaries are, when we learn what we will absolutely not put up with, or, when you learn that you're gone out of your lane, that you definitely become more and more whole and healed.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that there's layers of healing. So
Yes.
100%, my big layers, all the big stuff of being alone, being abandoned. Like I say abandoned because my mother abandoned me. And yes, there is another story, and I'm not actually ready to say that piece yet. But I think that when a child at a very young age is rejected in the child's state, there is abandonment, right? It's like, well, why didn't she like me? Why didn't she want me? There must be something wrong with me. Like all that layer stuff has to be peeled off so that you can be who you are and centered into that. So, and then sometimes things can happen and you go, ooh, I thought I dealt with that. So then it's like, okay, releasing more of that. So as far as I would say the core parts of dealing with why was I abandoned, why was I adopted, the core, I believe, has
been dealt with?
I think the way that you know when it's dealt with is because when somebody talks about what happened to you, something that was really emotionally charged, like you get really anxious and emotional, and it's like you're right there, it happened yesterday. When you don't have that anymore and you can look at that and go, oh, that was an incident that happened to me, but I don't let it ruin my emotions anymore. You're more in control of, and it's not even control, but you're more in a space of, oh, okay, that pain, the raw pain that gets you every time, is you're able to look at it, observe, and just go, oh, well, that's an incident that happened to you, but we're here now. So we don't have to let all that emotional charge and thoughts and things control your actions. Because again, back to mindset, when you have your mind trained and your emotions trained, and I don't mean that you just kind of brush it off and go, oh yeah, that happened. But I mean, you've actually delved into it. You've really felt the heartache and you understand both sides. You can understand what the little child was thinking, and you can actually look at it from a different perspective. For instance, my mother's perspective, what was going on for her, and actually feel that emotionally, not just perfunctorily kind of go through the motions, but you're actually dealt and dived onto both sides of the story. When you're able to do that, I believe that the biggest part of your healing is done. So I believe that when you're healed, you never forget what happened. Like, it's always there, but the charge behind it is gone. And then you're able to talk about it. You're able to actually look at it rationally and see it objectively rather than subjectively.
Well, what you're talking about, we can look in the rear view mirror, but the distance is further. We're looking ahead. Now we're driving. The glass is big. That mirror is big. We're moving forward. The rear view is always there. If you feel you need to check in, you can't escape your in terms of where you came from, what your past is about, but where you are now, the choices you make for your life. And you are in charge of that. The choices, the mindset, the choices you make in your mind. I'm not saying that things don't happen to you, but the choices you make, even when challenges happen, are up to us. It's really up to us.
That analogy of the rearview mirror is so perfect, because I think so many people, if they don't have help to actually not look through the rearview mirror, sometimes they don't even know they're doing that, because that's so ingrained in who they are. They're so used to that they're living their life looking backwards, and you can't necessarily move forward if you're always looking back. So that's
the rear view becomes the big picture, where it should be. It's there. But we're not driving like that. When you drive, you can't drive like that. So look ahead. You are so together, Pope. You are so together. You are so together. I have to tell you that. But before we go, what's one question, and I have been asking my CEOs lately, what is one question or a subject we haven't talked about, or a question that you would have liked me to ask you and you would like to bring forward now? People might
wonder, living in a non-Asian family, how that affected me. And the way it did affect me would be that I was very shy. It taught me to be very shy and not feel safe to be Chinese. Even though I said I wanted to be Canadian, I realized that some of that, I think we talked about that earlier, was that protection for sure. And I did go deep into that because here's something. I think the thing that could ask would be, if you're a person who is thinking about adopting interculturally, I would suggest that you speak to people that have been adopted first. Because what I've noticed is a lot of books, even shows, talk mostly about from the adopter's point of view. And there isn't a lot of questioning around the adoptee's point of view.
Is that something you could write about?
Well, that's part of, so I'm already writing one book, and I believe that my second book is going to be more around that, my experience as an adoptee in a non-Chinese environment. That I think is going to be my second book. Because I think people need to know. I think that what happens is my experience anyways, so I can only speak from my experience, but it feels that when people ask from the adopter's point of view, it becomes too clinical. It becomes too, oh, well, yes, we've learned that when adoptees are this, that they like this and this. But it's more about when you ask the adoptee, you might be surprised what the answers are. So I think, and it could be, that's just my experience. Like clinically, there was, psychologists and all that, of course, they're involved. And their clinical thing was, oh, yes, we need to do this. Oh, yes, we need to do that. But it's more about when that happened, how did it affect the adoptee growing up? How did that affect the dynamics in the family? How did that affect their way to have choice? Because lots of times, as children, we don't necessarily, I think children now have more choice, but as children, especially a one that's taught to be seen and not heard, they don't see that there's a lot of choice.
That's a great question. That's a great answer. And I will certainly remember that. And I still have one last question. Now, do you celebrate Chinese New Year and Chinese culture at all? Are you in?
I do celebrate Chinese New Year, and I do have a few friends that are Chinese. So I'm not super big on my Chinese culture, but I have dabbled into looking into pieces of it. And honestly, though, where I'm at now, I'm actually beginning to think that it's actually more important to know who I am as me rather than my culture and the beliefs and the habits that they had. Because sometimes it's good to have understanding about, because I know that lots of times I don't necessarily think white. I don't think Caucasian. I do have Chinese ways that I think, and I learned that through reading books about, or I'll talk to other Chinese people and realize, they had the same thought around that. So I would bring my Chinese insights or ways of thinking into Caucasian, and it's very different. So you learn to adjust and you learn to see what is what and what's not. And so that is actually the challenge, the balance between Chinese and Caucasian. But when you go into who you are as a person, all of that sort of falls away. It doesn't really matter anyway.
So I want to thank you so much for actually sharing, you gave us your heart medicine. That's what you gave us, some heart medicine and soul journey and all of that stuff. You were just so together. And I really enjoyed talking to you, hearing your story, and I appreciate you, Poe. I appreciate you. We only met briefly last year, and I'm so pleased that you said yes to our community, to yourself, to me, and the community, inspiring a community who needs to hear your voice. We need to hear the voices. So
100%.
thank you.
100%.
Thank
Stay
you.
in your own lane, girl.
Yes, stay in your own lane, girl. People, are we going to have a link to where people can reach out to you? That's up to you. I'm not sure what you're doing, but did you want to talk about that?
It's like a newsletter that has the testimonies of the people that I've worked with and their experience of me when I worked on them, or with them, I should say. And so those are sort of things, and it would have the link of the books, my 2 chapters.
Yes.
I'm adding that to my newsletter as well. Yeah.
So thanks again, Poe. Be well. Many blessings to you going forward and all of that. So thank you, Poe. Thank you all for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Sharon Lee Williams, and this is Outraised Voices.